العلم أشراف مطلوب وطالبه لله أكرام من يمشي على قدمه. العلم نور مبين يستضيء به أهل السعادات والجهال في الظلم.
He can't steal his car. He has to be a person of sound judgment. That's based on the verse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَابْتُلُوا الْيَتَامَى حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغُوا النِّكَاحَ فَإِنْ أَنَسْتُم مِّنْهُمْ رُشْدًا فَادْفَعُوا إِلَيْهِمْ أَمْوَالَهُم. Where Allah Jalla wa Ala in Surah An-Nisa commands us to try and to test the orphans, or those that we have their wealth. إِذَا بَلَغُوا النِّكَاحَ, if they reach the age of nikah, and if they reach puberty, then it's one of two. فَإِنْ أَنَسْتُم مِّنْهُمْ رُشْدًا, if you see that they are of sound judgment, you've tested them, you've given them a certain amount of wealth, and they've bought some items that are reasonable, then you give them the rest of their money. طيب. فَادْفَعُوا إِلَيْهِمْ أَمْوَالَهُم, then give them their money. What's the mafhum al hadith? Mafhum mukhalafa, the opposite of the hadith, or the mafhum of the hadith? If they buy things that are not reasonable, then don't give them their wealth. Don't give them their wealth. طيب, the next shard, how many have we come fast now? How many shurud? Or 4? 3. طيب. ومن شروط البيع, and from the shurud of bay' ألا يكون فيه riba. ألا يكون فيه riba. That there is no riba involved. عن عبادة بن سامت رضي الله عنه, he said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الذهب بالذهب, gold for gold, والفضة بالفضة, and silver with silver, والبر بالبر, and wheat for wheat, والشعير بالشعير, and grain for grain, والتمر بالتمر, and dates for dates, والملح بالملح, and milk is to be sold with milk, مثلا بمثل, the same as each. The tamar has to be the same, the gold has to be the same, the fidda has to be the same, والبر has to be the same, and so on. سواء بسواء, like for like. يدا بيد, يدا بيد. فإذا اختلفت هذه الأصناف, لكن if these types or these kinds, if they differ, فبيعوا كيف شئتم, then sell how you wish. إذا كان يدا بيد, if it is hand by hand, if you're selling it, having the transaction hand by hand. نعم. فمن زاد, whoever increases, أو استزاد, or asks for an increase, فقد أربى, then verily he has fallen into riba. He has fallen into riba. طيب. This is the next condition, which is that there can't be riba involved in the transaction. If there's riba involved in the transaction, then that aqd is fasid. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعِ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. Allah Jalla wa Ala legislated al-bay', and he made what haram? Riba haram. The Shaykh rahimahullah, he, first and foremost, طبعا the hukum or the ruling of riba is what? Halal or haram? Haram. طيب. The Shaykh rahimahullah, he mentioned riba when he's talking about the what? What is he mentioning now? Shurud, the conditions. So he's saying one of the conditions is that there's no riba in it. The fuqaha, obviously in the longer books, in Zad al-Mustaghni and Rawd al-Mub and so on, the explanation, these books of the fuqaha, they have a separate babu riba, a whole chapter. And the reason is because there are many masail. Lakin obviously, given the fact that the book is mukhtasar, summarized, given the fact that this kitab is summarized, the Shaykh briefly mentioned the condition of a riba. Then he mentions 3 conditions, 3 qawa'id or tawabid. I'll write the tawabid in a minute, inshallah. Lakin first and foremost, there are about 4 different things that will help us understand babu riba. 1, 2, 3, 4. طيب. طيب, the very first one is riba. Riba. What is the definition of riba? لغة, Linguistically, it means a ziyada. فإذا اهتزت فإذا أنزلنا عليه الماء اهتزت وغبت. So Allah Jalla wa Ala says that when the water comes down, then it goes into the earth and it causes an increasement, growth, seeds and so on, plants and so on, provision for Bani Adam. It increases. So it comes down rain, like in after planting it, food comes out, harvest, so on. لغة, that's what it means. اصطلاحا, لكن اصطلاحا in what? اصطلاحا, what does it mean? The terminology of the fuqaha, it means زيادة في أشياء, an increasing in certain things, ونسأ في أشياء, and delaying certain things, أشياء مخصوصة, certain items. So riba doesn't fall into everything. It doesn't fall into everything. Only a few different types. Only a few different types. So that is the definition, give or take. Like you'll understand when we start to talk about the different types. The next mas'ala is al-amwalu allati tajri fiha riba. The wealth that riba falls into. Does riba fall into everything? Or does riba fall into does riba fall into everything? مثلا, books. Can riba fall into books? To the extent that if I sell you one book, you can only sell me one book back. Or can I sell you two books for one book? Is that permissible? Is that permissible? So I have two books and you have one book. You give me one book and you buy one book or you buy two books for one book. That's permissible, sah? What about shoes? Can I buy 5 pairs of shoes, give you one pair of shoes? 5 for 1. Like, we understand from that there are certain amwal, wealth, that riba can be found in. And that's the hadith that I just read. 6 items. 6 things. الذهب والفضة, ذهب, gold, فضة, silver, bur, wheat, sha'ir, grain, tamar, dates, milh. Milh. These 6 items riba falls into. Falls into, na'am. Falls into. طيب. So, if I want to sell gold for gold, as the Messenger ﷺ said, it has to be equal. So 10 grams of gold for 10 grams of gold. Not only that, but it has to be hand by hand. I have to do it now. Straight exchange. Fidda bifidda. If I want to sell silver for silver, it has to weigh the same. Right? It has to weigh the same. And it has to be on the spot. The same for bur and the same for these 4. Is that understood? And the second point, is that understood? Bil ijma', al-ijma'. So there's ijma', consensus amongst the scholars. Ijma' means a consensus amongst the scholars. So for example, you will find salah is wajib, bil ijma'. Salah is wajib with ijma'. Consensus of the scholars, all of the scholars, whether they're the Hanabila, the Malikiyya, the Shafi'iyya, the Hanafiyya, the Zahiriyya, all of the scholars, Ahl al-Hadith and so on, they all have consensus that there's ijma'. So these 6 items, the fact that riba falls into it, the fact that riba falls into it, there's ijma' amongst the scholars. Is that understood? So the second mas'ala is understood. Fadl. La, leave it now. We're coming to that. These 6 items, has everyone understood them? What are they? Dhahab, fidda, bur, sha'ir, tamar, milh. If I want to sell these items with the like of it, then it needs to be, we're going to look at the dawabid anyway. Sah? طيب. The third mas'ala, why am I doing it in this tartib? Because you won't understand this mas'ala unless you've understood this mas'ala. And you won't understand this mas'ala unless you've understood this mas'ala, the second point. So we've understood the second point, صح? Girls, understood? تمام. The next مسألة, number 3. هل يقاس على هذه الأصناف الستة? Do we make qiyas on these 6 items and say because these 6 riba falls into these 6, then riba also falls into other items? Or do we say that riba only falls into these and it doesn't pass over to anything else? What do you think? Do you think that we do qiyas? Qiyas is analogy. And I'll give you an example of qiyas. مثلا, alcohol is what? Halal or haram? Haram, صح? Why is alcohol haram? صح? Your aql, your intellect goes when you get drunk. You have no intellect. You're sakran, you're drunk. So the illah, the reason is what? The reason why khamr has been made haram is what? Naam, your aql goes. If we say we're going to make qiyas on that, then we're going to say, طيب, مثلا, qat, that green leaf, cannabis, and any other type of drug that causes your intellect to disappear and causes you to do things that you wouldn't normally do, then that is also haram if we do qiyas. Is that qiyas sahih? Is it correct? Na'am, it is correct. So someone can't turn around and say to you, listen, cannabis is halal. Find me an ayah or a hadith where the Prophet said it is haram, and I will refrain from using it. Like, if you can't find me a hadith or a verse from the Quran, I'm going to carry on smoking cannabis. Is that statement correct? La. Because the illah is there. The reason why khamr has been made impermissible is also found in cannabis. That is the meaning of qiyas. That is the meaning of qiyas. And we're going to study in usul al-fiqh anyway. We're going to study in usul al-fiqh. So there has to be a far', an asl, a hukm, and an illah. Like we're going to study in usul al-fiqh.
How do you explain that to an individual who doesn't understand qiyas?
We're going to get later on, inshallah, ask me the questions. Like for now, I'm explaining it to you guys who, mashallah, understand. طيب. Is there qiyas? It's not working now, Aisha. Is there qiyas or not? If we say there's no qiyas, then that means anything other than these 6 we can buy and sell, even if they're different, even if they're the same weight or different weight and so on. Regardless of the weight. Regardless of on the spot, hand-to-hand transaction. That's if we say it is what? There's no qiyas. If we say there's qiyas, then not only are these 6 haram, lakin there are other things that are haram, sah? Is that understood? That khilaf, there is a khilaf in that, but it's not that great. Okay, that's with the Zahiriyah. The Zahiriyah, they don't accept qiyas. A lot of khilaf in fiqh goes back to khilaf in usul al-fiqh. So the qiyas aslan, the Zahiriyah aslan, they don't accept qiyas as a proof. So whether they're in Kitab al-Nikah, whether they're in Kitab Biyu', whether they're in Ibadat, they're not going to accept qiyas as it is. Qiyas means analogy. طيب. Lakin, the opinion of the Jumhur, which is the stronger opinion, is that we do qiyas on it. Meaning, not only dhahab, fidda, not only these 6, but there are other things that we do qiyas on. So we do qiyas on these 6. Is that understood? Is that understood? Naam. So that is the third mas'ala out of the way. طيب. We know the types of wealth that riba goes into. We know that you can also do qiyas. The fourth mas'ala, إذا قلنا بالقياس فما هي العلة? If we say that we're going to take qiyas, yes, we're going to apply qiyas. So it's not only these 6, but there's other types of wealth that riba falls into. طيب. So the question is, what is the illah? What is the reason? What is the reason? For us to do illah, for us to do qiyas, there has to be 4 things. Just briefly write these down. Lakin, if you don't understand it, don't worry too much about it, because we're going to study in usul al-fiqh. الأصل الفرع الحكم العلة. طيب. Write these four down. الأصل الفرع الحكم and العلة. طيب. لكن an example that you'll understand is alcohol. So we'll use that and then we'll apply these riba, these items. So al-khamr, what is the asl? يعني khamr halal or haram? So where now we want to know the ruling of cannabis. We want to know the ruling of cannabis based on the ruling of khamr. The asl is what? Al-khamr, alcohol. That is our asl, that is our foundation. The far' is the other item that we want to know the ruling of. Here, cannabis. I don't know how to write now a bit, like let's call it weed. طيب. Cannabis or weed is the far'. The hukum, what is the ruling of al-khamr? Haram. The ruling of khamr is what? Haram. So now we have our asl, which is khamr, and our far', which is cannabis. صح? The hukum of the asl is what? The hukum of the asl is khamr. What is the hukum? Haram. What is the illah? What is the reason? What is the reason? The reason for alcohol being haram, khamr being haram. Iskar. Al-iskar. It makes the person drunk. And their sense of judgment goes. Okay. This is what is called al-qiyas. Al-qiyas equals al-asl, al-far', al-hukm, al-illah. The asl is khamr, the far' that we want to know the ruling of. So the asl has been mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah. We don't need to confuse ourselves over the asl. Like in the far' is something which is a nazila, it is new. So now we want to know the hukum of it. Weed. The hukum is what? Or qat, مثلا. The hukum is what? The hukum of the asl, which is khamr. What is the hukum? Haram. طيب. What is the reason? Intoxicant. طيب. Let's apply that here now. Let's apply that here. If we say that there's a qiyas, there's qiyas. We need to be able to know what can we do qiyas on. First and foremost, we need to know what illah is. What a illah is. Because we said what? What is the illah? What is the reason? What is the reason that we're connecting this wealth to that wealth of dhahab? Write illah down anyway. Write illah down. We shall see in usul al-fiqh. I can just write it down to help you. وصف ظاهر منضبط. وصف ظاهر منضبط. It is an apparent attribute that is clear. A clear attribute. يلزم من وجوده يلزم من وجوده وجود الحكم ومن عدمه عدم الحكم. That's the ta'rif of illah. Lakin in short, the illah is the reason. So the fuqaha, they differ on this point. Number 4, they differ. What can we make qiyas on? A lot of the scholars, the muhaqqiqun and so on, they are on the opinion that al-dhahab wal-fidda are one kind. They are a jins. They're one kind, one type. Okay? And these 4 are also one type. Okay? So dhahab and fidda have something in common. Dhahab and fidda have something in common, and these four have something in common. Which means there's a illah for this and a illah for that. طيب. So the question is, what is the illah of dhahab and fidda? لا لا cash and currency, sorry, أحسنت الثمنية. The reason why I didn't say cash or accept cash, because cash now takes the place of dhahab and fidda. So it's a currency. So it's ثمنية. So the illah for these two, for dhahab and fidda, why is there riba in that? What is the illah? What is the reason? ثمنية, الثمنية. It is a currency. You use it to buy things. So you use dhahab and fidda to buy things. Now it's not so common. Like in the past, dhahab and fidda were used to buy things. So what is the illah in dhahab and fidda? الثمنية, which means what? Currency. We use it to buy things. صح? طيب. If we find that same reason or that same illah in something else, can we also say riba falls into it? What is something else? Cash. Cash, for example. Money. They call it awraq naqdiya. Cash, money. Whether it's the euro, whether it's the dollar, whether it's the pound. We use these things to buy items. صح? Now you can't walk into Tesco and say there's 10 grams of gold, take it and give me 5 litres of milk. So you can't say that, طبعا. You give them what? Cash. طيب. So the reason why dhahab and fidda, why we find riba in there, is because of it being a currency for something. It is thamaniyah. So anything else that once upon a time or once in this ummah becomes a currency, then it can also be used for, or riba also applies in it. Riba is also applicable when it comes to buying and selling through it. So for example, cash. Do you remember zakah? You know when we were studying Kitab al-Zakah, there was a nisab for cash, for fidda, صح? And for gold. What did we say about cash? Did we say there's no zakah in it? No, there was zakah in it. So just like in Kitab al-Salah, in Kitab al-Zakah, there was zakah in cash, then likewise here, there's also riba. So it's the money is a currency. What does that mean? The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said what? الذهب بالذهب, صح? The hadith that you've got in front of you. الذهب بالذهب, صح? طيب, مثلا if I want to sell 10 grams of dhahab, how much do I have to sell it for? 10 grams of dhahab. Fidda. 10 grams of fidda. How much do I have to sell it for? 10 grams of fidda. طيب, I want to exchange £500. How much do I need to exchange it for? £500. £500. Is that understood? I want to exchange $200. I need to exchange it for the like of it, $200. I can't exchange it for what? $300. It has to be equal. Is that understood? With dhahab and fidda. صح? What is the illah in dhahab and fidda? ثمانية. The next thing is al-asnaf al-ukhra or al-asnaf al-arba'a. These four. Al-bur, wheat, grains, dates, and milh. What is the illah? The scholars ask themselves. What is the reason why, or what do they share in common? Their weight, excellent. Okay, what else? Excellent. They're all food, girls. Okay, excellent. Dry food that is stored. What else? Are all of them weighed? Are all of them? Like you said the word. You said the. You said the word. One of you said the word. لا لا لا. Weighed, but you said something else which is equal to weighed. طيب موزون. What they've got in common is al-wazn, the illah for them, al-kayl or al-wazn. They're either kayl or wazn, meaning they're weighed. They are weighed. What is the difference between kayl and wazn? Kayl is volume. Kayl is volume. مثلا, that is what? Half a litre. Let's say that's half a litre. طيب. If I put it underneath a Coke tap, what's going to come in? What size? Will that change? La. If I have a litre of water and I put milk in it, will that change? It will always be 1 litre. طيب. So kayl is what is used as a hajm. So for example, Kitab al-Hajj and Kitab al-Siyam, you will find in Kitab al-Siyam and Zakah, as-sa' al-nabawi. So the sa' of the Nabawi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is like a cup or a mud, a cup, and anything you put in there, that is a mud. That's not used nowadays. That's why you're probably thinking, what is he talking about? That's not used. Al-wazn, what is al-wazn? Something that is weighed. Grams, kilos, ounces, something that is weighed. So these four have got that in common. They are either weighed, either kayl or wazn, one of the two. But also they are, you mentioned, they are food, at-tu'm. They are food. They are food. طيب. So anything that is weighed, whether it's weighed in volume or often weighed in weight, يعني how, or measured in weight, or anything that is measured in volume, that is also food, then there's also riba in it. So it's not just these four. مثلا, for example, lahm, meat. Meat. Is that weighed? Is it ta'am? Then there is riba in it. طيب. One can say, but the milk is not what? It's not food on its own. You can't eat meat. You can't eat salt. صح? Like, can you have food without salt? No, you can't. That's why the scholars say that milk is also included. If milk is included, what else can be included? Huh? Everything that is similar to milk. All types of spices. All types of spices. طيب. Is that understood? What is the illah, the reason why dhahab and fidda have been made ribawi, amwal ribawiyya? Currency. طيب. Is it specific to dhahab and fidda? لا. Even cash nowadays, whether it's pounds, dollars, euros, reals, anything is now also takes the place of dhahab and fidda, takes the same ruling. طيب. What about Bitcoin? لا, Bitcoin can't be used. Why? Because it is not something that is relied upon by any government, any dawla. It is haram, as the scholars say. There's a lot of gharar in there. Sometimes it goes sky high, sometimes what? Crashes. So cash is the same as fidda and dhahab. These asnaf of bur, sha'ir, what is the illah? What is the illah? What is the reason why it has been made? Al-wazn. Aw al-kayl ma'a at-tu'm. So if these two, طيب. What about books? They're weighed in it. But it is what? Books. Books are weighed. It's not food, of course it's not food. So therefore it won't come in. It is not food. Shoes. Houses. No, why not? Why not? Don't go far. The illah is not there. Houses are not weighed. Can't say, but send me 50 grams of a home. So, طيب. Nor is it ta'am. Nor is it ta'am. طيب. Yeah, go on. Cement. Allah yahdik. طيب. Cement. No, seriously. Any item that you want to know, go back to the illah. That's a good question. It is weighed, صح? Cement is weighed, صح? طيب. What is the second illah? طعام. Anyone eat cement? لا. Therefore, there's no riba in it. Is that understood, yeah? طيب. We're going to have to stop there for now because otherwise we're not going to study much from the other book. Lakin, write it down as it is. Inshallah, someone remind me, I'll send it to you on WhatsApp. Lakin, practice these. Someone take a picture of it, please, and send it to me as well, yeah? Practice this. Once you practice this, I'm going to give you tawabid or qawa'id in the next lesson and you'll be able to easily understand because we haven't studied the full hadith yet. So by understanding this, the next few lines of the book will be easy. The next few lines of the book will be very easy. So the tawabid we're going to study next week, inshallah. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam wa ahkam.